Hi everyone, this is Gary Berman, host of the Cyber Hero Adventure Show, coming to you from Washington, D.C. And we have a very, very special briefing today regarding the release of a new report, the report to the President, a strategy for cyber physical resilience. And we'll have a link to learn more and to download your copy. It was an extraordinary privilege to listen and learn from retired Admiral Mark Montgomery, who was the moderator of a wonderful panel. And before we delve into some of the report findings, I'm just going to give you some reflections on yesterday, getting to hear these folks live. And one of the really interesting and I think important things that came up was to integrate cybersecurity in engineering courses or across all types of engineering, whether it be civil engineering or fill in the blank. What were your thoughts about that?
Yes, I agree with you. I was impressed. Phil Venables made the point that, I think Harry Coker had mentioned, look, we really got to get cyber, more around we need to have cyber kind of in. There needs to be software engineering in all the cyber policy courses.
Right.
And Phil took it one step further, and there isn't. He said,
yeah.
I think then Jen said maybe 5%. And then Phil Venables jumped in though and said, even more so, I would like to see cybersecurity in a mechanical engineering program,
right.
A electrical engineering program, systems engineering, and he's exactly right. I mean, I'd take it one step further and say, look, the people who are breaking our networks are not the cyber workforce. It's the cyber-enabled users making errors. It's people, responding to phishing. It's people not using multi-factor authentication properly.
Right.
It's people not using complex passwords. That's what's getting us in trouble. So I would take the need for cybersecurity education and training one step further and say it probably needs to be feathered throughout your K through 12 education, your college education, and then very specific skill sets need to be in the engineering curriculums and in the cybersecurity curriculum.
Indeed, and that is something we're passionate about. Our comics, while not made for children, they're made for adults. We've found that cybersecurity professionals take them home, so now they know what mom and dad does. And then response for children has been great. So maybe that's we can look at scaling in the future in some way. That would not be hard to do.
No, I agree.
One of the other really cool things I took away from the conversation was this idea of minimally, I wrote it down, minimal viable delivery objectives, which I thought was a really important concept about recovery. In our previous conversations, we talked a lot about resilience and recovery. So tell our audience a little bit about what's an example of that, let's say in healthcare.
So I think that these are, I'll probably use a different one than healthcare, but I'll just say, I'm an engineer, I ran nuclear power plants. The idea of what's your minimum instrumentation operator plan, what's your minimum, as you're bringing something back from a power outage, what do you have to have online before you bootstrap the plant back up? Same thing in in water systems. Maybe it's how many of your, normally you have 100 testing devices working, automated testing devices, how many have to be up and running that you can bring a system back? How many pumps have to be operating before you start the system? What percentage of the valves need to be remotely operated, or can you operate some manually? Those are kind of decisions. Everyone has to know, they have to have their resilient restoration plan, their restoration plan that supports their resiliency. So you need, as a utility, you need to know, how am I going to recover from a severe outage? Some of these exist. Some of these exist because a regulation made you make a decision, or companies.
Like electricity.
Yeah, like electricity. And some electricity and financial services are heavily regulated. So there's requirements on how fast data moves for financial services, what frequency band you're operating in for electrical power, things like that. But for a lot of other systems, it's up to the company. Did they do the right thing and have this kind of result? And the way you do this is you plan, you test, and you see what's required. You assess the results, and then you replan, retest. And that's how you build up this idea of what's my minimum operating capability, my minimum viable delivery objectives.
On behalf of a grateful digital universe, Mark, thank you so much for who you are and what you do and why you do it. And to our audience at home, stay tuned for more.